Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the video. I'm GetGoodGuy, and today I'm bringing to you another opinionated list video, purely because they're fun. Fun for me to make, and fun for you because they're that irresistible form of content that's super easy to watch. You know what I mean. I'm weak to it as well, trust me. I see a list video pop up, and I click it. We're very simple beings here on YouTube, it seems. So, these are the lowest skill guns for each class in Battlefield 5. The ones that a totally new player can pick up and find the easiest to use to a half-decent degree. Note that I'm not at all saying these guns can't be used with skill or can't be used to a high degree of ability and effectiveness, because of course they can, just like pretty much everything else. But I feel like these are the weapons that are least punishing on a player who isn't particularly skilled and will allow them to pick up some fairly easy kills here and there. And it is purely my opinion, these aren't officially the lowest skill weapons in the game at all, they're just what I believe to be the lowest skill weapons in my mind for each class. So please leave your list of the easiest weapons to use in the comments below, one for each class, along with your reasoning behind your selection if you like. I'd love to see them and compare with other ones. Oh, and one more very quick thing, as it's obviously important, these are all before the plan changes to bullets to kill and such like, so we'll probably have to update this list after those changes if things are altered a lot. And with all that said, let's kick this off with the Assault class, and it's what you've been watching since the start of the video. There was no point pretending it wasn't going to be this weapon, so I've gone for the super obvious choice of the STG-44. I'm almost certain this one doesn't need explaining at all for most people, but this wouldn't be much of a video if I just skipped on talking about each choice. So the way I see it, if you've played first-person shooters before, the STG essentially fills the role of the classic assault rifle in Battlefield 5. It performs in a very familiar fashion to what you will have experienced through the years of using an AR. There's very little to learn. It's quite a forgiving weapon. The recoil is super manageable. The vast majority of the time you point and shoot, land your damage and see if it's enough to kill the enemy. Up close, you may lose to a close quarters orientated weapon, and at super long range you may lose to a long range orientated weapon, but the rest of the time you've got a pretty good shout of landing the kill if your shots are on point. It's not the most potent thing in the game, but that's balanced out by ease of use. It's a jack of all trades, an everyman option, a versatile pick with a low skill floor. But I guess as we're discussing low skill floors, it should also be mentioned that it's arguably a little more potent than you'd imagine on the face of it for how easy it is to use. I said before about hitting your shots, but the STG is forgiving to the extent that a lower skill player can in fact miss a fair few shots and still pick up kills here and there. It's got a steady rate of fire, decent damage, and pretty damn good stability overall. Although this may all be temporary with gunplay changes on the way, as I mentioned, for the past year the STG has been designated as the new player-friendly assault automatic weapon. And it being automatic is another big reason why I selected it. I considered something like the M1A1 due to its large magazine and very simple mechanics for a semi-auto, especially on PC where it seems to be less affected by a recoil nerf it received. But while some players find semi-autos very easy to use, having to repeatedly pull the trigger is another demand upon a player that some of the less able won't want to deal with. In fact, it may hamper their performance, especially if they don't have a decent trigger finger. And so an automatic weapon ended up being the only logical option. And for the sheer variety of situations it can comfortably contest, the STG beats out the Sturmgewehr and the M1907. And as alluded to, this selection won't really shock most players. The STG has been roundly accepted as being both easy to use and pretty good. In fact, it was an absolute god gun during one of the betas, and its overall capabilities are why it still appears to maintain a high selection rate to this day. And so all of that is why the STG-44 is my choice for the low skill weapon of the assault class in Battlefield 5. Alright, moving on to the medic class, and we have what could arguably be considered as the SMG counterpart to the STG, the Sten. It's just so easy to use. You want to talk about recoil? What recoil? This thing is so stable it's unreal, and I've experienced that on console using a controller. With the control you can have with a mouse, it must be as stationary as a mountain. It just shoots straight. So while it's not the most lethal weapon in the game, in fact not by a long shot, it makes up for it by allowing you to easily hit your shots. There's almost no excuse for missing a lot of bullets with the Sten, but I figure even if you do, you're probably still going to pick up kills as the recoil never knocks you into that truly uncontrolled state. You just realign your sights and you're good to go. And the overall design of Battlefield 5 is part of the reason why this is such a solid pick. Not just for new and less able players, but really for anyone if you connect with it. Battlefield 5 has some huge wide open maps and a decent chunk of the player base intent on sitting at the edge of those maps, or sniping from some far-flung building, or of course the ever-present tactic of remaining prone with some kind of bipod weapon. Well, the STG is a low skill option that also allows players to compete in that landscape. It's an SMG that can land damage against such tactics. So while it won't do much damage at those super long ranges, players, at least you've got a chance of hitting them if you really need to or want to. And anything leading up to that range is totally fair game and possible for you to take down. Now that does rely on a certain amount of ability due to the need to maintain damage on the enemy, which takes us away a little bit from the low skill part of the discussion. But the point remains, you aren't really locked off from any fights at all with the Sten. It's a very easy weapon to wield, provides you with the possibility to land a little damage on someone in a team fight in order to finish them off and get the kill. And besides all that, lower ability players aren't expected to turn the tables on gunfights that aren't in their favour anyway. So the lack of DPS or damage per second this weapon deals is almost a non-point in that regard. What it does provide is a much easier chance for such players to pick up kills in situations where there's a large enough margin for error while still ending in success. It's user-friendly by design, plus besides that, the SMGs are almost certainly easier to use than the bolt-action carbines for most new or lower skill players due to not having to specifically hit timed shots, and so that is why the Sten is my pick for the low skill weapon of the medic class in Battlefield 5. Alright, onto the support class, and of course I had to go for an MMG. Not because they're easy to use in the most effective and team focused way possible, because they aren't, but because they're so simple to use in a very self-focused and easy kill orientated fashion. So while it may be difficult to traverse the map, engage in a range of firefights and such like with an MMG, there's also not much else in the game right now to rival just how mind-blowingly easy it is to simply lie still and plug away at targets with fairly minimal recoil. And so with that in mind, I've gone for the recently added M1919A6, because even without specializations it has ridiculous stability, a 250 round magazine and a slower rate of fire which will likely help lower skill players to actually stay on target. So much like my previous choices for assault and medic, we're trading some lethality for ease of use. Basically, these are all the opposite of skill cannons in a lot of ways. A low skill player doesn't usually want to use the most jaw-droppingly lethal weapon if it comes along with a lot of difficulty in using it. This was why the KE7 was used a lot early on in the game. Even after a nerf, the KE7 was never the most powerful weapon available, despite what many people thought. It's just easy to use. And also, I didn't fully realise this at the time either, netcode issues made it seem better than it was due to super bullets. But that's somewhat besides the point. Now I could have gone for the total opposite of say the MG42, for the ultimate spray and pray weapon and rapid kill times if you hit your shots. And it is also a solid option for this, I can see the argument for it. Or I could have chosen an LMG as you can aim down sight with them without lying prone. But in the end this was a pretty easy choice for me. Lying prone is simple, aiming with a bipod is simple, low recoil makes it even more simple, and the M1919A6 comes with the specialization options to reduce both vertical and horizontal recoil, as well as improving the bipod for even greater accuracy. So really, I can't see what would be much easier than using that to pick up some very simple low effort kills. And so all of that is why I've chosen the M1919A6 as the low skill weapon for the support class in Battlefield 5. And now we come to the recon class, and how could it not be an anti-material rifle? Compare it to a bolt action, a self-loading rifle, or a pistol carbine, it doesn't matter, this is still the easiest choice by far if you just want to be able to kill something and nothing else matters to you. What's difficult about being stationary and landing a body shot within 100 meters? Absolutely nothing at all. And I'm not talking about having to get up, move towards the objective, pick your moments, your range, your specific situation to engage, no, none of that. I mean for players to literally sit in one spot for 64 years and try to just land a shot on someone. This is the easiest way. I've gone for the Boys AT rifle over the Panzer Bush, or however you say it, but honestly just pick whichever one you want. The same basic premise is there, and I can't honestly see how anyone could argue that anti-material rifles aren't a great low skill option. And so all of that is why I chose the Boys AT rifle as the low skill weapon for the recon class in Battlefield 5. Do now remember to let me know what you think. Which gun is your pick for the low skill weapon in each class? Let me know in the comments below. And anyone who now goes down there and starts complaining about that gun is hard to use because if you want to play in this way, you have to deal with this and blah blah blah. Or, I use that gun and I'm very skilled or whatever. Look, because I always get comments that ignore what I've said in the video, I've made it super clear that this video isn't about that. So just hush your face, alright? Pinch your lips together. Or your fingers together so they can't type. You see what I mean? It's about which weapons are super easy to use for basic kills for new or low skill players players, and that's all. And everyone can use whatever they like and whatever is fun for them. I even use 2 of the weapons on this list regularly because they're fun for me. I just don't use them in that super slow, low effort fashion, but whatever, you please do you, that's fine. So if you enjoyed the video, I'd super appreciate you leaving a like, subscribe and turn on notifications to stay up to date with my content, and feel free to follow my stream and join my Discord server, in the description and my pinned comment. Here's the Board of Awesome for the epic people who support the channel on Patreon. They're all absolute heroes and I love them all deeply and of course, often. If you want to join them on the Board of Awesome, the link to the Patreon page is in the description and my pinned comment. And with all that said, I'm GetGoodGuy and I'll see you next time. Laters. Basically, for 100 meters and beyond, or for something 75 meters and beyond, you're going to need a lot of bullets. Even with faster rates of fire, there's no way this doesn't change how long it takes to kill someone at that kind of range. So now you likely have a lot of weapons being kind of pea shooters at long range, even if they do become laser accurate pea shooters.